Welcome to this edition of Head to Head. I'm your host, Cam McKinney, and this is episode number 407 of the podcast. And on this episode, I'm talking about Bam Adebayo of the Miami Heat scoring 83 points against the Washington Wizards. Never in a million years did I think the most talked about thing in sports so far in the year 2026 would be the fact that Bam Adebayo scored 83 points against the Wizards. And as you all know, the reactions have been all over the place, with people mocking the Heat and Wizards, saying that what they did Tuesday night was not basketball, while others say no matter how he scored the points, scoring is not an easy thing to do. Here's what I think is getting lost in all of this. Bam had an all-time undeniable first quarter against the Wizards, where he went 10 of 16, 5 of 8 from free, with 31 points, in a game where the Heat were without Tyler Hero. In that quarter, he was efficient and playing like a superstar player. In the first quarter, he shot 62%. In the second quarter, he shot 37%, 36% in the third quarter, and in the fourth quarter, 37%. My point is, he was only truly spectacular in the first quarter, but right now, most people aren't even giving him credit for that. They are harping on the ending instead of that great start, which I think is incorrect. That is what people are doing. They are trying to label this thing one thing, a sham, and I don't think it is a total sham. I was impressed by Bam's stats in the first quarter. That is a great stat line. He was having a great game. And what happened after that is exactly what you expect to happen after that. He had the hot hand, so he kept shooting a lot of shots. I do want to go back to the Tyler Hero aspect of all of this. I feel like people forget that when Tyler Hero is not on the court, the main scoring option for the Miami Heat is Bam Adebayo. This is not a team that's stacked with a bunch of elite scoring talent. In this particular game, he was asked to do this by his head coach, and he did absolutely what he was told to do. Be the main guy on this team, and that's what he did. He took his game to another level, that elite first quarter. And that to me is what is so fascinating about this particular performance. If it was swapped and he was not efficient in the first quarter and then had an incredible fourth quarter, I think a lot of you would be applauding what Bam did during this game. I think that is an issue I have with the sport of basketball, is it becomes all about what you did at the end of the game. Well, you're all admitting the game didn't matter by the end of the fourth quarter, so who cares what Bam's stat lines were? When the game mattered, Bam Adebayo was the best player on the court far and away. That is what matters most to me. I think he should be getting praise for that incredible first quarter, one of the best first quarters you will ever see. And I know there was silliness at the end of this game, but I find most scoring performances are kind of like this, where there's one quarter or one half where the player is truly incredible, and then they start just taking a lot of shots, and it's not the same game as it was in the beginning. That is just how basketball players are. Very few of them can play at an all-world level all four quarters. No one is actually mad about Bam Adebayo. What people are mad about is the fact that this game symbolizes in their eyes what's wrong with modern basketball. Bam shot 7 of 22 from free-point range and was 35 of 43 from the free throw line, and it happened against the Washington Wizards, a team that is blatantly tanking. Right, so if you are somebody who absolutely loved basketball in the late 90s and early 2000s, you probably hated the product that was the Miami Heat versus the Washington Wizards, because everything you knew about basketball in the 2000s were not happening in this game. I mean, you had a big man taking 22 three-point shots, and you had a team on the other side that has players in Trae Young and Anthony Davis, but really aren't playing them down the stretch because they're thinking about what's going to happen next season. I mean, Anthony Davis has never played for the Wizards yet, and Trae Young has been in and out of the lineup, but really this is a Wizards team that that is trying to tank, get a high draft pick, and be good next year. Really, this game was an indictment of the regular season. There are too many games that either don't matter at all or one of the teams are not trying to win. This is the type of game and reaction that's going to force the league to stop tanking, especially when it has to do with records like this. I mean, this is not an issue we are seeing in other sports. I mean, when Hank Aaron broke the home run record, we weren't like, well, he faced a pitcher who wasn't even trying to win the game. The same goes for football. I mean, in those sports, the records are held sacred, and I feel like basketball is at this weird turning point where we're going to stop caring about these kinds of things in the regular season, especially if they're against teams like the Washington Wizards, who don't care about the game that is being played that night. I mean, I had never seen a press conference like the one that Bam had at the end of this game, where he was saying, don't blame me, blame the Washington Wizards head coach for not double teaming me. I mean, the player is calling out the opponent's head coach for not being prepared and not caring about the game. If that's not a problem for the NBA, I don't know what is. As a major fan of this league, I just think it has been in the headlines for a lot of the wrong reasons this year. I mean, during the All-Star break, there was all that talk about how the stars don't care about the game anymore. The All-Star game, that is, that the effort level isn't what it used to be. And I don't care about the All-Star game, but I do care about the regular season, because you can't be a league where the only thing that matters is the postseason. I don't think you can survive like that. You have to have people caring about regular season games. And not to get onto a side topic, but this also has me thinking about what's going on with the MVP award this year. I mean, there are guys who are great players who may not qualify for the award because they're going to miss too many games. I don't think it's as bad as baseball was a few years ago, where they fixed the pace of play, but basketball needs to be fixed. Like, this is a turning point for the league. So many things are happening this year that needs to be corrected by next season. I mean, we need to get to a point, and I don't think this is asking an awful lot, where when a guy scores 83 points, it's a big deal and it's treated as such. It's not a mockery to the game. People aren't questioning it. People aren't clowning it. The guy who scored the points doesn't need to be defensive at the podium at the end of the game. I mean, these are things that the NBA needs to fix immediately. Next to baseball, basketball is my favorite sport, and I need it to matter. I need something like this to matter for me to enjoy the product moving forward. It's just not a great look for the NBA, which hasn't had a great season, if that makes any sense. Like, this has not been a great year for NBA headlines. Getting back to the performance itself, I do believe there's a particular basketball fan who would have been upset no matter who scored the 83 points. Like, I don't think this is about Bam. I think this is about Kobe Bryant. And I find the Kobe Bryant stuff to be interesting because he is one of my favorite players of all time, and I would not put on the top of his list of accomplishments the 81 points. I don't think that is one of the things that I most remember Kobe Bryant about. It's about winning the 5 championships. It's about winning an MVP. It's about the fact that I always thought that Kobe Bryant was a super underrated defensive player that didn't get enough credit for how good he was on that side of the court. And I really do believe that if Kevin Durant or Steph Curry had scored 83 points on Tuesday night, those same people who were upset about Bam doing it would have been upset because they love Kobe Bryant. And I understand that. I get it. I'm just not there with you. I don't think that that particular performance was the thing that I associate the most when it comes to Kobe Bryant. When it comes to my favorite players in all sports, it never comes down to one particular performance. It comes down to the fact that they were super consistent. I mean, Kobe Bryant was great for 2 decades. That is what is important to me. It wasn't wasn't about one night against the Toronto Raptors where he scored 81 points. Bam Adebayo's career is not going to come down to a Tuesday night where he scored 83 points against the Washington Wizards. It's going to come down to whether or not he remains consistent. In the sport of basketball, one game cannot define an entire career. And I know there are so many think pieces being written about how this will define the career of Bam Adebayo. No, it won't. This is a moment in time where everyone is fixated on this game. Yes, it will be talked about in the years to come, but I don't think it will end up being the number one thing that defines the career of Bam Adebayo. What's so weird about this game, the Miami Heat versus the Wizards, is that there's one team telling you they couldn't care less, and then there's the Miami Heat, who seemingly do care about Bam going for 83 points. I think that's why so many people are baffled by this game. They understand where the Wizards are coming from, but what exactly were the Miami Heat doing at the end of this game? Why did they care so much about Bam going for it? I don't know what to tell you, because you can tell by Bam's reaction at that podium that he knew most of the reactions to this performance were going to be negative. So why were the Miami Heat playing along with what was going on in that game? That's part of it I will never understand. I think Eric Spoelstra is the best coach in basketball right now. The Miami Heat are currently a good team, but probably a team that's going to lose early come playoff times. Again, going back to what I was saying at the beginning, I can justify the entire first quarter of this game. The Heat were without Tyler Hero. They were asking Bam to be the man that night, and boy was he in that first quarter. He was efficient. He was fantastic. I wouldn't say it bothered me. I just don't understand why the Miami Heat were that invested in the performance by the fourth quarter. Why weren't they done with it all like the rest of us? Another thought I had after the reactions to this game is this, that I don't think most sports fans and media really enjoy the randomness when it comes to sports. I mean, this is what sports can become in a lot of ways, that you wake up one day and you realize that Bam Adebayo, a guy you barely think about, has scored the second most points in NBA history. I thought that was one of the reasons we all enjoy sports, because from night to night, you can't predict exactly what is going to happen. We all thought that this was a nothing game, that we would never have to talk about the Miami Heat versus the Washington Wizards ever again, and it ended up being a game that's going to be talked about years from now. I understand the criticism of the scoring night, but I think the conversation around it is interesting because nobody saw it coming from this particular player. I mean, I'll speak for myself for a few minutes. I really thought the age of the big man was over in the NBA. I thought it was all going to be about the guards like Steph Curry taking shots. Look at the league right now. You have Nikola Jokic, you have Victor Wembanyama, you have Bam Adebayo scoring 83 points. The big men in the NBA are making a comeback, and they are doing things that even some of the guards are incapable of doing. These bigs fit the modern NBA a lot better than some of the wings and guards in this league, and that is something I never thought would be the case ever again. I really am somewhere in the middle between these extreme negative reactions and these positive reactions that just seem to be reacting to the negative ones. Like, I think people feel the need to really pick a side when it comes to this game and Bam's performance. I think it's complicated. I think both sides have a legitimate argument. This guy suited up that night and had a great game. He scored 83 points. I don't think this is like Kobe's last game where I was kind of like, wow, he's taking a lot of shots. I get what he's doing here. He wants to go out with a bang, but I don't think this is a great game from Kobe Bryant. I think Bam had a great first quarter. And like what happens in most basketball games, the player that was hot tried to take control of the game and maybe took too many shot attempts. Nothing more, nothing less. I guess deep down I really don't care who has scored the most points in a regular season basketball game. I've never been somebody obsessed with the Wilt Chamberlain game. I know a lot of people are making the jokes about whether or not that game actually happened and if he scored 100 points. I don't really care about all of that. In fact, I think that when the NBA becomes all about scoring, it becomes kind of boring to talk about. Like, I like to talk about the other aspects of the game. I'd like to talk about the passing, the defense, the overall game itself. I've never really been big on who wins the scoring title in the NBA. That's never been something that interested me. I like two-way players. I like talking about other things other than just scoring points. Having said that, I do think it's kind of cool that a guy that wasn't even averaging 20 points per game on a Tuesday night scored 83 points. I like the randomness of this. I like when surprises happen out of nowhere in sports. I don't want everything to be predictable, because sometimes I really do find the NBA to be predictable. The great players are great and the role players step up from time to time, but very rarely do you see a performance like this from somebody you never thought possible. Like, nobody thought that Bam Adebayo could score 50 points in a game, let alone 83. His previous high in 2021 was 41 points. I really do like the fact that this wasn't Steph Curry, this wasn't Kevin Durant, this wasn't somebody you would expect that from. This came completely out of nowhere, and it made noise in both good ways and bad. Everyone is talking about this. Everyone has an opinion on this, and in some ways I think that's a good thing, and in other ways I think this is something that the league needs to look into, because you should want this performance to matter on a larger scale. You should want your fans to feel better about this performance. And you should want past and current players in the league to respect this performance. And sadly, not enough of them do, and I can see why. Like, again, I can see the argument from both sides. This was a professional basketball game where Bam Adebayo scored 83 points, while the other side is saying it did not have the feeling of a professional basketball game, and it's hard to argue that. It does. I don't know where we go from here, but I really do think that drastic changes are coming to the NBA in the coming years. Like, they need to do something about tanking. You can't just have the Wizards making headlines for all the wrong reasons and then get rewarded with a top draft pick and a future star player in the league. Like, the NBA needs to do something about tanking. The NBA also needs to save the regular season. I don't know if that means less games. I'm not really that person who thinks that the league would be so much better if there were 60 games. I just think we need the regular season to matter more than it does, especially on nights when a guy scores 83 points. It should be a big deal. And in a weird way, it was a big deal, but again, for the wrong reasons. Like, we should be celebrating Bam Adebayo, and some people are, some people aren't. Again, I'm mixed on the overall performance, but I thought his first quarter was great and is worthy of celebration. I think I have to bring this up. On the day that I'm recording this podcast, there is talk about expansion in the league, going back to Seattle and bringing in a team in Vegas. I find that to be absurd right now. I mean, you have to handle the teams that are in your league. There are too many teams out there that don't care about winning regular season games. I don't understand how bringing in more teams is going to help that situation. I mean, you got to change the lottery system, or you're going to have more teams like the Wizards. Think about the words you would usually associate with an 83-point night. Great, fantastic, unreal. The most you're getting from this game is that it was awkward for everyone involved. Again, the head coach of the Miami Heat was defensive at the end of this game. Bam Adebayo was defensive. He was calling out the Washington Wizards for not double teaming him. Like, this felt like an episode of The Twilight Zone where Bam Adebayo wants you to think that this was a real game. Meanwhile, the Washington Wizards could not care less. They are just trying to lose as many games as humanly possible. I'll end on this. I think we're going to have a great postseason this year in the NBA. But with games like this and shatter like this, they put an awful lot of pressure on themselves to have a great postseason because they need to make the whole thing worth it. Well, if the NBA doesn't matter in the regular season and then the postseason doesn't live up to the hype, why exactly am I watching the NBA? Again, I think we're going to have a great postseason. You have the Thunder, you have the Spurs, you have the Nuggets. These teams are really good. You have the Celtics, you have the Knicks. There's a lot to be interested when it comes to the postseason, but if the postseason doesn't live up to the hype of being exciting, we're going to look back at a moment like this and say, what exactly is the NBA offering me outside of these weird polarizing games in the regular season? So in conclusion, I'm a thumbs up on Bam's first quarter against the Wizards, and I'm a thumbs down on the Wizards overall. Thanks for listening to this edition of Head to Head. I'm Cam McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every week on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so please rate, review, and subscribe.